The wealthy mountain man's unexpected proposal to a struggling schoolteacher. YouTube story. She was about to lose everything she worked for. Until a silent, cold mountain man walked into her life with an offer no one could understand. A marriage proposal, worth millions, but with one shocking condition. The snow that changed everything. The snow was falling harder than anyone in Cedar Hollow had seen in years. It wasn't the soft kind of snow people admired from warm windows. It was heavy, sharp, and endless, like the sky itself had decided to bury the small mountain town alive. Inside a nearly empty classroom, Emily Carter stood at the chalkboard with cold fingers and tired eyes. Her breath was visible in the freezing air. The old heater in the corner had stopped working 3 days ago, and no one had come to fix it. She wrote slowly. Math is not just numbers. It is life in patterns. But her voice didn't carry the warmth she wanted. There were only 5 students left in her class. The rest had either moved away or dropped out because their families couldn't afford basic living anymore. Emily tried to smile. All right, class, let's try one more problem. No response. A boy in the back coughed into his sleeve. A girl near the window hugged her thin jacket tighter. Emily turned away for a second so they wouldn't see her frustration. Her salary hadn't come in for 2 months. The school board kept promising, next week, but next week never came. And today was different. Today, she had received a letter. A foreclosure notice. Her small apartment, the only place she had left after her parents died, was going to be taken in 14 days. She folded the letter carefully and placed it inside her teaching folder, as if hiding it could somehow change reality. Outside the school, something was coming. Far away from the struggling classroom, deep into the mountains beyond Cedar Hollow, a black vehicle moved slowly through the snowstorm. It was too expensive for these roads. Too clean for this weather. Inside the car sat a man who didn't belong in this world. His name was Grayson Blackwood. A billionaire. But no one in Cedar Hollow talked about him in that way. They called him something else. The Mountain Man. He had built an empire from mining, land investments, and businesses that stretched far beyond the valley. But after a personal tragedy years ago, he had disappeared from public life and returned to the mountains where he grew up. People said he never smiled anymore. Some said he never spoke unless necessary. And some even believed he had lost his heart completely. Grayson looked out the window as the storm grew worse. Is she still teaching? He asked coldly. The driver hesitated. Yes, sir. Even with no heating. Grayson's jaw tightened slightly. That answer seemed to confirm something he already knew. Keep driving. Back at the school, the final bell rang early due to the weather. The students rushed out quickly, eager to escape the freezing building. Emily stayed behind, organizing papers with numb fingers. One by one, the lights flickered. Then the hallway went silent. She exhaled slowly. This is getting worse, she whispered to herself. She picked up her bag, preparing to leave, when she noticed something strange outside the window. A black vehicle. Still running. Still waiting. Emily frowned. Visitors were rare here, especially in storms like this. She walked closer to the glass. The door of the vehicle opened. A man stepped out. Even from a distance, she could tell he didn't belong here. Tall, broad-shouldered, dressed in a long dark coat that moved sharply with the wind. He didn't struggle against the storm like normal people did. He walked through it like he owned it. Emily's heart beat slightly faster. Who is that? She murmured. The first meeting. The school door opened suddenly. Cold air rushed inside. Emily turned quickly, and froze. He was standing there. Grayson Blackwood. Up close, his presence was overwhelming. Not in a loud way, but in a controlled, heavy silence. Like the room itself had become smaller. Are you Emily Carter? He asked. His voice was deep, calm, direct. Yes, she replied cautiously. Can I help you? For a moment, he didn't answer. His eyes scanned her, not in a disrespectful way, but like he was confirming something important. Finally, he spoke. I have an offer for you. Emily blinked. An offer? Grayson stepped forward slightly, snow melting from his coat onto the wooden floor. Yes, he said. A marriage proposal. Silence. The kind of silence that doesn't feel natural. Emily almost laughed, but didn't. I'm sorry, what? Grayson didn't change expression. I want you to marry me. Her grip tightened on her bag. Are you joking? No. That single word made the air feel heavier. Emily stared at him, trying to understand if this was some kind of cruel prank or mistake. I don't even know you, she said firmly. You walk into my school and propose marriage. That's insane. Grayson's eyes didn't move away from hers. It is not emotional, he said. It is practical. Practical, she repeated sharply. Marriage is not a business deal. For the first time, something flickered in his expression. Not emotion exactly, but irritation. You are losing your home in 14 days, he said calmly. Emily went still. Her face changed instantly. How do you know that? Grayson didn't answer immediately. Instead, he placed an envelope on the nearest desk. I know everything I need to know, he said. Emily stared at the envelope but didn't touch it. What is this? A solution. Her heartbeat increased. She opened it slowly. Inside was a contract, and a number at the bottom that made her breath stop. More money than she had ever seen in her life. Her hands trembled slightly. She looked up at him. This is insane. Grayson stepped back toward the door. I will return tomorrow, he said. If you agree, your problems end. And if I refuse? She asked. He paused at the doorway. Then nothing changes, except you lose everything. The door closed behind him. And just like that, he was gone. Emily alone. The classroom felt colder than before. Emily sat down slowly, still holding the contract. Her mind refused to process it. A marriage proposal from a billionaire. A stranger who knew her life. A deal that could save her home, her future, everything. But something about it felt deeply wrong. Outside, the storm grew stronger. And somewhere in the mountains, Grayson Blackwood was already certain of one thing. She would say yes. The contract she couldn't escape. The night in Cedar Hollow felt longer than usual. Snow pressed against the windows of Emily Carter's small apartment like it was trying to get inside. The heater barely worked, producing weak bursts of warmth that disappeared within minutes. Emily sat at her wooden table, the same contract placed in front of her. She hadn't signed it. She hadn't even fully read it. But she also hadn't stopped thinking about it. A marriage proposal, from a man she barely knew. A man who looked like he didn't need anything from anyone. Yet somehow, he needed her. Emily flipped the pages again, her fingers trembling slightly. It wasn't just a marriage contract. It was detailed. Too detailed. Living arrangements. Financial terms. Duration. Conditions. And one line stood out more than anything else. This marriage is non-emotional and strictly contractual. Personal attachment is not required or expected. Emily frowned. What kind of person writes something like this? She whispered. A knock suddenly hit her door. Hard. She froze. No one visited her at night. Especially not in a storm like this. Another knock. More controlled this time. She stood slowly, her heart pounding. Who is it? She called. A familiar voice answered from the other side. Grayson Blackwood. Her breath stopped. He was here again. So soon. Emily hesitated, then opened the door slightly, but not fully. The cold air rushed in. Grayson stood there like before. Calm, unmoved by the storm behind him. You didn't sign it, he said. It wasn't a question. It was a fact. Emily tightened her grip on the door. This is not something you just sign, she said. It's insane. Grayson looked at her for a long moment. Then he said something unexpected. You have 14 days. Her stomach tightened. I know, she replied quietly. 13 now, he corrected. That made her uncomfortable. You're tracking my days now? She asked sharply. I am aware of time, he said simply. Emily exhaled in frustration. This is not normal, Mr. Blackwood. For the first time, something slightly shifted in his expression when she said his name. Grayson, he corrected. She blinked. What? Call me Grayson. The request was so simple it made her pause. But she didn't answer. Instead, she opened the door wider. Why are you doing this? She asked. Grayson didn't respond immediately. He stepped inside without waiting for permission. The room suddenly felt smaller. Emily instinctively stepped back. I didn't invite you in, she said. I didn't come for permission, he replied calmly. That answer made her uneasy. He looked around her small apartment. Broken heater, old furniture, stacks of school papers on the table. His expression didn't change, but something in his silence felt heavier than judgment. This place will not survive winter, he said. I've survived worse, Emily replied. Grayson turned back to her. Not financially, he said. That hit harder than she expected. Emily swallowed. Why me? She asked again, more firmly this time. There are hundreds of people you could do whatever this is with. Grayson walked toward the table. He placed another document beside the contract. Emily didn't pick it up. You are a teacher, he said. You stay when others leave. Even when your salary stopped. Even when the school failed you. Emily frowned. How do you know all that? Grayson ignored the question. You are stable, he continued. Predictable. Honest. Emily almost laughed. That sounds more like a job interview than a marriage proposal. It is not love, he said again. It is structure. She stared at him. Structure for what? For the first time, Grayson hesitated. Just for a second. Then he said quietly, for my life. The room went still. Emily felt something in his tone that wasn't cold anymore. It wasn't warmth either. It was emptiness. A deep one. She lowered her voice. You're not telling me everything, she said. Grayson didn't deny it. Instead, he placed a key on the table. A simple black key. This is for the mountain estate, he said. If you accept. Emily stared at it. A life she couldn't imagine. A house she had never seen. A man she didn't understand. And a contract that felt less like an offer, and more like a trap disguised as safety. I need time, she said finally. Grayson nodded once. You have until tomorrow night. That's not time, she snapped. It is all I can give. Emily stepped forward slightly. Why the rush? She asked. For a moment, something darker passed through his eyes. Something buried. But then it was gone again. Because people are watching, he said. Emily froze. Watching? What people? Grayson turned toward the door. That is not your concern yet. Yet, she repeated. But he didn't answer. He opened the door, and the cold wind rushed back in. Before leaving, he said one last thing. When I return tomorrow, I need your answer. And then he was gone. Emily's breaking point. The apartment felt even emptier after he left. Emily sat down slowly, staring at the key and the documents. Her life had always been difficult. But it had never felt controlled by someone else before. Now it did. She picked up the contract again. This time, she noticed something she missed before. A final clause at the bottom. One line. Short. Unsettling. Termination of this agreement is not permitted once initiated. Her breath stopped. What does that mean? She whispered. Outside, the wind howled louder. And somewhere in the mountains, Grayson Blackwood stood at the edge of his massive estate, watching the storm. Waiting. Not for hope, but for a decision he already believed was inevitable. The truth hidden beneath the snow. Morning came late in Cedar Hollow. The storm had not stopped. It had only changed its rhythm, slower, heavier, like the mountains were breathing instead of sleeping. Emily Carter didn't sleep at all. She sat at her table the entire night, staring at the contract, the key, and the single line that kept echoing in her mind. Termination is not permitted once initiated. It didn't sound like a marriage clause. It sounded like ownership. By sunrise, she had made a decision. She needed answers. Not from him. From the world around him. A search for the man behind the offer. Emily wrapped her coat tightly and walked through the snow-covered streets toward the small town library. Most places in Cedar Hollow were closing early due to the storm, but the library was still open, barely heated, barely lit, but open. Inside, the librarian barely looked up. You look like you didn't sleep, the woman said. I didn't, Emily replied softly. She walked straight to the old computer terminal in the corner. Typing his name felt strange. Grayson Blackwood. At first, nothing came up. Nothing useful. No interviews. No social media. No public photos beyond old business articles. That alone made her uneasy. Everyone in the modern world left traces. Everyone. But not him. Then she found it. A small archived article buried under years of irrelevant search results. Blackwood Industries expands mining operations, CEO steps down after family tragedy. Emily clicked it. Her eyes scanned quickly. The article mentioned a massive company. Wealth beyond imagination. Political connections. Industrial control across multiple regions. And then one sentence made her pause. Following the death of his younger sister in a mountain accident, Grayson Blackwood has withdrawn from public life and relocated permanently to his family estate. Emily leaned back slightly. A sister. A tragedy. Something clicked in her mind, but not fully. Why would that lead to a marriage contract? Why her? She printed the article and left the library quickly, her mind heavier than before. Back at the school felt even emptier today. Only 3 students showed up. The rest had either left town or stopped coming due to weather and financial struggles. Emily tried to teach, but her mind kept drifting. Every sound in the hallway made her tense. Every shadow outside the window felt like it was watching her. During lunch break, the principal called her into his office. He looked uncomfortable. That alone was never a good sign. Emily, he said slowly, I don't know how to say this. Her stomach tightened. What is it? He placed a paper on the desk. A formal notice. Her heart dropped before she even read it. Immediate termination of employment. Emily stared at it. This is a mistake, she said quickly. I've been teaching here for years. It's not about your performance, the principal interrupted quietly. Then what is it about? He hesitated. Then said, it's about funding. The school is shutting down after this semester. Emily felt the words hit her like cold water. Shutting down. Everything she had held onto, gone. She sat down slowly. For a moment, she couldn't speak. This is because of him, she whispered. The principal frowned. What do you mean? But she didn't answer. She already knew. Somehow, everything was collapsing at the same time. Her job, her home, her stability, all within days of his arrival. The second visit. That evening, the snowstorm grew worse again. Emily returned to her apartment with numb steps. And she knew before she even reached her door. He was there, waiting. Grayson Blackwood stood in the snow like he belonged to it. Still, silent, unmoving. She stopped a few feet away from him. Her voice was sharp. Did you do this? Grayson didn't react. What are you referring to? He asked calmly. My school, she said. It's shutting down. My job is gone. A long silence passed. Then he said, I did not shut your school. Emily narrowed her eyes. But you knew it would happen. Grayson's expression remained steady. Yes, he admitted. That honesty hurt more than denial. Why? She demanded. Why destroy everything around me just to force me into this? Grayson stepped closer. Not aggressively, but enough to make the distance between them feel smaller. I did not destroy anything, he said. I am removing uncertainty. That's the same thing, she snapped. No, he said firmly. It is not. The wind howled between them. Emily's voice lowered. You are controlling my life. For the first time, something darker flickered in his eyes. Not anger. Something more restrained. I am trying to save it, he said. She laughed bitterly. By forcing me into marriage. Grayson paused. Then said quietly. You do not understand what is coming. That sentence made her still. What does that mean? She asked. He didn't answer immediately. Instead, he looked toward the mountains behind her apartment. As if something out there was listening. People I cannot avoid are returning, he said. They will not care about contracts or towns or schools. Emily felt a chill that had nothing to do with the weather. Who are they? She asked. Grayson's voice dropped slightly. The ones who were involved in my sister's death. The air went silent. Even the wind seemed to fade for a second. Emily's anger shifted into confusion. What does that have to do with me? Grayson looked directly at her now. And for the first time, his voice carried something heavier than control. Because they think I still have something to lose. Emily's breath slowed. And you think that's me, she said quietly. Grayson didn't deny it. He simply said, yes. The weight of the truth. For the first time since he arrived, Emily didn't speak immediately. The storm around them felt distant now. Her entire world had narrowed into one truth. She wasn't being asked. She was being positioned. Like a shield. Like a target. Like part of something far bigger than her life had ever been. She looked at him carefully. You're not offering me a marriage, she said slowly. You're offering me protection. Grayson's expression didn't change. But he said, yes. Emily shook her head. That's not protection. That's a cage. A long silence followed. Then Grayson said something quieter than before. Sometimes cages keep you alive. That line stayed between them longer than anything else. Emily looked down at the snow gathering at their feet. Then back at him. For the first time, her certainty cracked. Not into agreement, but into doubt. And doubt was more dangerous than refusal. Because it meant she was starting to understand him. even if she didn't want to. Cliffhanger ending. Grayson stepped back slightly. I will return tomorrow, he said again. But this time, it didn't sound like a threat. It sounded like a countdown. Emily didn't answer. Because now, she wasn't just afraid of losing her home. She was afraid of what would happen if she said no. And somewhere deep in the mountains, something was already moving closer. The house on the edge of the world. The morning Grayson Blackwood arrived was the coldest yet. Not just cold in temperature, but in feeling. Emily Carter stood by her window, watching his black vehicle cut through the white storm like a shadow moving through water. This time, he didn't come to ask. He came to take an answer. And somehow, she already knew that. Her hands were shaking as she folded the contract and placed it into her bag. She had read it so many times now that the words felt burned into her mind. Not permitted to leave once initiated. Protection against unknown threats. Full relocation to Blackwood Estate. Temporary marital union. Temporary. But nothing about it felt temporary. A knock hit her door. Once. Controlled. Certain. Emily opened it before she lost her courage. Grayson stood there, exactly as before, calm, unreadable, dressed in dark layers that looked untouched by the storm. You have decided, he said. It wasn't a question. Emily swallowed. I need to understand what I'm walking into. Grayson nodded once. That is acceptable. He stepped aside. A black vehicle waited behind him. This time, the door was open. A silent invitation. Emily hesitated. This feels like a point of no return, she said quietly. Grayson looked at her. Not soft, not cold. Just honest. It is. That was the first time he didn't hide it. And somehow, that honesty scared her more than anything else. Still, she stepped forward. And got inside. The journey into the mountains. The town disappeared quickly behind them. Cedar Hollow became smaller with every mile, until it was just another forgotten patch of life buried under snow and distance. The road twisted upward into the mountains. Higher. Colder. More isolated. Emily stared out the window. You live all the way up here? She asked. Grayson didn't look at her. Yes. Why? A pause. Because no one comes here unless invited. That answer lingered. Emily shifted in her seat. You still haven't told me everything, she said. I have told you what matters, he replied. That's not the same thing. Grayson finally glanced at her. For a moment, something human flickered behind his controlled expression. You are not ready for everything, he said. Emily frowned. That sounds like something people say before disaster. Sometimes it is, he admitted. The car continued upward. Snow grew thicker. Trees became fewer. And then, the mountains opened. Blackwood Estate. It wasn't a house. It was a fortress. A massive structure built into the mountain itself, made of dark stone and steel, blending into the landscape like it had grown there instead of being built. Lights glowed faintly through tall windows. Smoke rose from distant chimneys. The car stopped at iron gates that opened automatically without a guard in sight. Emily stepped out slowly. Cold air hit her face instantly. She looked up. The estate towered above her like something from another world. This is where you live, she whispered. Grayson stood beside her now. This is where I stayed, he corrected. She looked at him. What's the difference? His eyes stayed on the house. Living implies peace, he said. This place has never had that. A silence followed. Then he walked forward. And she followed. Inside the estate, the doors opened into warmth. But it wasn't comforting warmth. It felt controlled. Like even the air had rules. The interior was vast. Stone walls, high ceilings, long hallways lined with old photographs and artifacts. Everything looked expensive, but nothing looked lived in. Like a museum of a life paused halfway. Emily walked slowly. Her footsteps echoed. You really don't like people, do you? She said. I do not trust them, Grayson replied. That's worse. He didn't respond. Instead, he led her deeper into the house. They stopped in front of a large wall. Emily frowned. It was covered in framed newspaper articles. Headlines. Business achievements. Expansions. And then, a single section marked differently. Black ribboned frames. Emily stepped closer. Her breath slowed. One photo stood out. A young girl. Smiling. Standing on a mountain trail. Below it, a name. Lila Blackwood. Emily turned to him slowly. She's your sister. Grayson didn't look away. Yes. The silence became heavier. Emily's voice softened without meaning to. What happened to her? For a moment, Grayson didn't answer. Then he said, she was supposed to be safe. That sentence carried something broken inside it. Emily stepped closer to the photo. She died here. Grayson's jaw tightened slightly. In these mountains. During an expedition arranged by people I trusted. Emily looked at him carefully. And you blame them. I know they are responsible, he corrected. There was something sharper in his voice now. Not anger. Certainty. Emily turned fully toward him. That's why you brought me here, she said slowly. Grayson met her gaze. Yes. The truth landed fully now. Not just protection. Not just a contract. Something heavier. A replacement role. A shield in a war she didn't know existed. Emily stepped back slightly. So this marriage, it's not about saving me. Grayson didn't deny it. It is about preventing history from repeating itself. Her chest tightened. You think they'll come after me? I know they will try, he said. A long silence followed. Emily looked around the massive estate again. For the first time, it didn't feel like safety. It felt like a target. The first crack in his control. Emily's voice lowered. And what happens if I say no? Grayson's expression didn't change immediately. But something in the air shifted. You will still be in danger, he said. And you won't protect me. A pause. I cannot protect someone who is exposed. That answer was carefully chosen. But it still hurt. Emily shook her head slightly. So I'm just a tool to you. Grayson's eyes narrowed slightly. That is not accurate. Then what is it? She demanded. For the first time, his voice softened just slightly. You are the only variable I can control. That sentence stayed between them. Heavy. Uncomfortable. Honest. Emily looked down at the floor. She didn't like him. Not in the way people are supposed to like someone. But she also couldn't deny what she saw. A man shaped by loss. By anger that had nowhere to go. By a past that never healed. The decision approaches. Grayson stepped back slightly. You will stay here tonight, he said. Emily looked up quickly. I didn't agree to that. You are already here, he replied. She opened her mouth to argue, but stopped. Because he was right. She was already inside his world. And it didn't feel like there was an exit anymore. Grayson turned to leave, but paused at the doorway. One more thing, he said. Emily waited. If you decide to leave after tomorrow, I will not stop you. That surprised her. She frowned. Really? Yes. A pause. But you should understand, he added. Emily held her breath. You will not be the only one making that choice. Then he left. Cliffhanger ending. Emily stood alone in the massive hall. Surrounded by silence. Surrounded by a past she didn't choose. And a future she didn't understand. Outside, the mountain wind howled against the estate like something alive. And somewhere beyond the snow, something was watching, waiting for the moment she became officially part of his world. The night the mountain came alive. The Blackwood estate didn't sleep. Emily Carter realized that within her first hour alone. Even when everything was silent, the house wasn't still. The walls carried faint sounds, distant footsteps, shifting wood, wind pressing against stone like it was trying to get inside. She sat in a guest room far larger than anything she had ever lived in. Soft lights, heavy curtains, a bed she didn't feel safe sleeping in, and a door that locked from the outside. Emily noticed that detail immediately. She walked over and tried the handle again. Locked. Her chest tightened. You said I could leave, she whispered to herself. But no one answered. A house that remembers pain. Hours passed. Sleep didn't come. Instead, she explored the room slowly, checking every corner, every sound, every shadow. The mountain outside howled louder as the night deepened. At one point, she heard it. A faint creaking outside her door. Emily froze. Hello, she called quietly. Silence. Then nothing. She waited. Still nothing. But her instincts didn't relax. Something about this place wasn't just security. It was containment. Grayson's silence. Down the hall, Grayson Blackwood stood alone in his study. The fire burned low. He didn't sit. He rarely did at night. Instead, he stood in front of a large glass wall overlooking the mountains. His reflection stared back at him like a stranger. A voice came through the room's intercom. Perimeter check complete. No movement. Grayson didn't respond immediately. Then he said, increase patrol frequency. A pause. Sir, there is no confirmed threat yet. Grayson's voice stayed calm. There will be. The line went silent. He turned slightly, eyes drifting toward the direction of Emily's room. Not worry. Not softness. Something more complicated. Calculation. The first warning. At exactly 2:17 a.m., the estate lights flickered. Once. Then again. Emily sat up instantly. Her breath caught. What was that? The hallway outside her door shifted with sudden movement. Fast footsteps. Not slow. Not careful. Urgent. Then, a sharp metallic sound echoed through the house. Like a gate unlocking somewhere deep inside the estate. Emily stood up. Her heart started racing. No. 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 She pressed her ear to the door. Voices. Low. Male. Unfamiliar. Not Grayson's. The past arrives. Downstairs, alarms finally triggered. Red lights flashed across the corridors. Grayson was already moving. Fast. Controlled. Not panicked. A guard appeared beside him. Perimeter breach on the east side. Unknown group. I know, Grayson interrupted. He pulled a dark coat tighter around him. How many? 5 confirmed. Possibly more outside tracking range. Grayson didn't hesitate. Lock the internal wings. No one enters the west corridor. The guard hesitated. That includes the guest wing. A pause. Grayson's eyes hardened slightly. Especially the guest wing. Emily's room becomes a cage. The lock on Emily's door clicked again. This time, different. Stronger. Automatic. She rushed forward. Hey, open the door, she shouted. No answer. She grabbed the handle again, shaking it harder. Grayson. Silence. Then, a voice through the wall intercom. Stay inside. It was him. Emily froze. Grayson. What's happening? His voice was calm, but sharper than before. Someone is inside the estate. Her stomach dropped. Inside. Yes. A pause. Then he added. And they are not here for me. Emily's blood turned cold. What does that mean? But the line went silent. He was gone. The mountain man becomes something else. Downstairs, Grayson moved through the estate like a storm contained in human form. Every step was precise. Every order immediate. The lights reflected off his dark coat as he passed. Through corridors that suddenly felt smaller. A guard rushed in. We've located 2 intruders near the lower stairwell. Grayson didn't slow down. Are they armed? Yes. Good, he said simply. That word didn't match the situation. The guard hesitated. Sir, we can handle this. Grayson stopped walking. For the first time, he looked directly at him. No, he said quietly. This is not their level of problem. Then he continued forward. Emily learns the real truth. Back in her room, Emily slid down against the door. Her mind was racing. This wasn't random. This wasn't coincidence. This was connected to him, to the contract, to everything. Then her eyes caught something on the bedside table. A small framed paper she hadn't noticed before. She picked it up. It was a map of the estate. But one section was marked in red. Restricted Zone. East Wing Archives. Below it, a note written in handwriting that wasn't Grayson's. Do not trust anyone who asks about Lila. Emily's breath stopped. Lila. A chill ran through her. The sister. The one who died. And suddenly everything clicked into place. This wasn't just protection. It was hiding. Something. Someone. The door breaks. A loud impact shook the hallway. Boom. Emily jolted up. Another impact. Closer. The door handle rattled violently. Open it. A voice barked from outside. Not Grayson. Not staff. Strangers. Emily stepped back slowly. No, she whispered. The lock held for one more second. Then, it clicked. The door began to open. Cliffhanger ending. Emily's breath stopped completely. The gap widened. Dark hallway light spilled into the room. A shadow stood on the other side. And just before the door fully opened, a single gunshot echoed somewhere deep in the estate, followed by silence so sharp it felt unreal. And then, a calm voice behind the intruder said, "You should not have come into my house." Grayson Blackwood had arrived. When the mountain fights back. The silence after the gunshot didn't feel like peace. It felt like pressure. Heavy. Suspended. Waiting to collapse. Emily Carter stood frozen in the doorway of her half-open room, her breath stuck in her chest. The shadow outside the door hadn't moved. But now there were others. Footsteps echoed through the corridor. Fast. Controlled. Strategic. Grayson Blackwood was no longer just arriving. He was taking control. The man behind the door The intruder standing at Emily's door hesitated for the first time. A voice behind him repeated calmly, "You should not have come into my house, Grayson." But it wasn't the same voice Emily had heard before. This one was colder, not angry, certain. The intruder slowly turned. Emily couldn't see everything from her angle, but she saw enough. A tall figure in black. Still, unshaken. And the intruder, who moments ago had been aggressive, now looked uncertain. "You're Blackwood," the intruder muttered. Grayson stepped forward. "One of you should have confirmed that before entering." A second later, movement exploded through the hallway. Guards appeared from both ends, cutting off escape routes. The intruder raised his weapon, but never got the chance to use it. Grayson moved first. Not fast in a chaotic way. Fast in a trained, deliberate way. One strike. The weapon hit the floor. Another motion. The intruder was pinned against the wall. No struggle lasted more than seconds. Emily stared in shock. "This isn't just security," she whispered. "This was experience. War-level precision. Emily is not the target." Grayson didn't even look toward Emily's room at first. His focus stayed on the intruders. "Secure the east corridor," he ordered. A guard responded immediately. "Yes, sir." Another voice came from the hallway radio. "Two more neutralized downstairs." Grayson didn't react emotionally, only logically. "How many remain?" "One. Possibly two outside perimeter." Grayson finally turned slightly, just enough that Emily could see his profile. Not soft, not shaken, controlled like a system built for emergencies. Then his voice shifted slightly. "Clear the guest wing, now." That was the first time Emily realized. She was being protected at priority level. Emily finally speaks. The moment the hallway cleared slightly, Emily stepped out of her room. "Grayson." Her voice echoed. He turned instantly. "Get back inside," he said sharply. "No," she snapped, fear breaking into frustration. "What is happening here? Who are these people?" Grayson stared at her for a second. The noise around them faded into background tension. Then he said, "They are here for information." "What information?" she demanded. He didn't answer immediately. That silence was louder than the gunshot. Emily's eyes narrowed. "This is about her, isn't it?" Grayson's expression changed slightly. Not denial. Not confirmation. Something more dangerous. Recognition. "You should not be involved in this," he said. "But I already am." Emily shot back. A pause. Then Grayson stepped closer. "Listen carefully," he said in a lower voice. "This estate has been attacked before." Emily's breath slowed. "And every time," he continued, "they were looking for the same thing." She swallowed. "What thing?" Grayson's eyes hardened slightly. "The truth about my sister. The hidden war." Downstairs, alarms finally stopped. The situation was stabilizing, but not finished. Guards moved through corridors securing restraints, checking blind spots, locking external gates. Grayson walked slowly now, not rushed. Thinking. Emily followed him despite everything. "You said she died in an accident," Emily said. Grayson didn't stop walking. "She did. But these people, they're not acting like it was an accident," she said. That made him pause. Just slightly. Then he said, "Because it wasn't clean." The words hung in the air. Emily frowned. "What does that mean?" Grayson finally stopped near a large reinforced door in the lower corridor. He placed his hand on the scanner. The door unlocked with a heavy mechanical sound. Inside was darkness. And silence. "This," he said, "is where answers exist." Emily looked inside. "What is this place?" Grayson's voice dropped. "The archive wing." The same name she had seen earlier. "Restricted zone." Her heart tightened. "You're not telling me everything," she said again. Grayson turned to her. "For your safety," he replied. "That's starting to sound like an excuse," she said. A long pause. Then Grayson said something different. "Then choose." Emily blinked. "What?" Grayson stepped slightly aside. "You can stay out of this and remain protected upstairs," he said. "Or you can come with me, and learn everything." Emily stared at him. "This is your way of giving me freedom?" she asked. "It is the only real choice you have," he said. That honesty hit harder than control ever did. The door to truth opens. Emily looked at the dark entrance. Something inside her pulled toward it. Not curiosity alone, but frustration. She was tired of being moved like a piece on a board. "I'm not staying in a room like a prisoner," she said finally. Grayson studied her for a second. Then nodded once. Then stay close. He stepped into the archive. Emily followed. Inside the archive, the air was colder inside. Not physically, emotionally. The room was filled with files, digital screens, sealed cabinets, and old documents. And on the far wall, photographs. Dozens of them, marked, categorized, and one name repeated across different files. Lila Blackwood. Emily walked closer slowly. Her breath slowed. This isn't just personal, she whispered. Grayson stood beside her now. No, he said quietly. It never was. Emily turned toward him. What happened to her, Grayson? For a long moment, he didn't answer. Then he said, she found something she was never supposed to see. Emily's stomach tightened. And that's why she died. Grayson's eyes darkened slightly. Yes. A pause. Then he added, and now they think I have it. Emily's voice dropped. What is it? Grayson looked at her. And for the first time, he said it plainly. The proof. Cliffhanger ending. The lights in the archive flickered once. Then stabilized. Grayson stepped closer to a locked cabinet and placed his hand on it. This is what they came for tonight, he said. Emily stepped forward slightly. And I'm involved in this because. Grayson looked at her directly. Because now you've seen the house. A pause. And once someone sees the house. His voice lowered. They become part of its secrets. A distant alarm suddenly beeped again. Not inside. Outside. Far beyond the mountains. And Grayson's expression changed for the first time since the attack began. They're not done, he said. The file that should not exist. The alarm stopped. But the tension didn't. In the archive room, silence felt heavier than noise. Emily Carter stood just a few steps behind Grayson Blackwood, her eyes fixed on the locked cabinet he had just touched. Something about it felt wrong. Not dangerous in an obvious way. Dangerous in a hidden way. Like opening it would change everything that came before. The locked truth. Grayson didn't move immediately. For the first time since Emily met him, he looked uncertain. Not afraid, but controlled hesitation. That cabinet, Emily said quietly, is what they came for tonight. Grayson nodded once. Yes. Emily swallowed. And inside, is what? Proof of what really happened to your sister. A pause. Then he answered. Yes. Emily stepped closer. Then open it. Grayson didn't respond right away. Instead, he stared at the cabinet like it was something alive. I have not opened it in 3 years, he said. That surprised her. Why not? She asked. His voice dropped slightly. Because once it is opened, there is no returning to ignorance. Emily frowned. I already don't feel ignorant, she said. Grayson glanced at her. You still believe this is only about your safety, he replied. Emily didn't answer. Because she wasn't sure anymore. The cabinet opens. Grayson finally entered a code. The lock clicked. A deep mechanical sound echoed through the archive. The cabinet opened slowly. Inside were files. Dozens of them. But one folder sat on top. Thicker than the rest. Marked in red ink. Project Blackridge. Emily's breath slowed. What is that? She asked. Grayson didn't answer immediately. He picked it up carefully. This, he said, is the reason my sister died. He placed it on the table. Emily opened it slowly. The truth begins to surface. Inside were documents, reports, maps, financial transfers, and photographs taken in secret. Emily flipped through them quickly. Her expression changed with every page. This isn't just an accident investigation, she whispered. No, Grayson said. It never was. Emily looked up. What am I looking at? Grayson stepped beside her. A private mineral extraction operation, he said. Illegal. Hidden beneath government approval layers. Emily frowned. I don't understand. Grayson pointed at one document. They were drilling beneath protected mountain zones. He flipped another page. And Lila discovered it. Emily's eyes widened slightly. She found this. Yes. And she told someone. Grayson's jaw tightened. She tried. A pause. Emily's voice dropped. And they stopped her. Grayson didn't confirm it directly. But he didn't deny it either. That silence was enough. Emily becomes part of the story. Emily stepped back. Slightly. This is why they came here tonight, she said slowly. They thought you still had these files. Grayson nodded. Yes. And now they know I've seen them too, she added. Another nod. Yes. Emily stared at him. So I'm not just a witness anymore. Grayson looked at her. No. A pause. You are now evidence. The words hit her harder than she expected. Emily shook her head slightly. This is insane. Grayson's voice stayed steady. It is real. She looked down at the files again. And the contract? She asked. Grayson didn't hesitate. It is protection. Emily let out a breath. But it's also control, she said. Grayson didn't deny it. Yes. That honesty made it worse. The second wave is coming. Suddenly, a distant sound echoed through the estate. Not inside. Outside. A deep mechanical vibration. Grayson paused instantly. Emily noticed the shift in his posture. What was that? She asked. Grayson moved toward a monitor on the wall. Security feeds flickered. Then stabilized. A convoy. Approaching the outer perimeter. Emily stepped closer. There's more of them? She asked. Grayson's voice turned sharper. Yes. He zoomed in on the feed. Vehicles were moving up the mountain road. Not just one or two. More than before. Emily's stomach dropped. How many? Grayson didn't answer immediately. Then, enough to finish what the first group failed to do. The realization. Emily backed away slightly. This isn't a burglary, she said. It's a takeover. Grayson looked at her. Correct. And they're coming here for me now too, she added. Grayson nodded again. Yes. Emily stared at him. You said I was safe here. A pause. I said you were protected, he corrected. Emily's voice rose slightly. That sounds like the same lie. Grayson stepped closer. It is not a lie, he said firmly. It is a condition. Emily shook her head. I don't understand your world. Grayson's expression softened just slightly. Then don't try to understand it alone. That line felt different. Less cold. More real. A choice inside the archive. Grayson closed the file slowly. We leave this room now, he said. Emily didn't move. Where do we go? She asked. Grayson looked at her. To the only place in this estate they cannot reach easily. Emily frowned. And where is that? Grayson hesitated. Then said. The underground corridor. Emily's eyes widened slightly. You have a bunker. He didn't correct her. He simply said. Not a bunker. A pause. A last option. That answer made her uneasy. But she followed him anyway. Cliffhanger ending. As they exited the archive, the lights flickered again. This time longer. More unstable. The estate shook faintly with distant impact sounds. Grayson stopped for a moment. His eyes narrowed. They breached the outer line, he said quietly. Emily froze. So they're inside the mountain now? Grayson looked at her. No. A pause. Not yet. Then he turned toward the hidden corridor door. But before he opened it, he said one final line. If they reach this level, the contract will no longer matter. Emily's heart dropped. Why? She asked. Grayson looked at her directly. Because then, he said, this stops being protection. A beat of silence. And becomes war. The corridor door opened slowly. Darkness waited inside. And they stepped into it. Beneath the mountain lies the truth. The hidden corridor door closed behind them with a heavy mechanical thud. The sound didn't echo. It disappeared. Like the mountain itself swallowed it. Emily Carter stood in complete darkness for half a second before soft emergency lights flickered on along the walls, dim, blue, and unsettlingly calm. This way, Grayson Blackwood said. His voice was steady, but sharper now. Focused. No hesitation. No emotion. Only urgency. The underground world. The corridor stretched deeper than Emily expected. Stone walls reinforced with steel. Pipes running overhead. Silent ventilation systems humming like distant machinery. This is under the estate? She asked quietly. Yes, Grayson replied. How far down? He didn't look back. Far enough to survive a siege. That word, siege, made her stomach tighten. She walked faster to keep up. You built all of this, because of them? She asked. Grayson paused slightly. I built it because of what I already lost. That answer lingered in the cold air. The hidden control room. They reached a reinforced door. Grayson placed his hand on a scanner. A beep. Then another. The door opened. Inside was a control room. Monitors lined the walls. Live camera feeds. Perimeter maps. Movement tracking systems. Emily stepped inside slowly. This is military-level security, she whispered. Grayson didn't deny it. It was never meant for civilians, he said. Emily looked at him. Then what is it meant for? Before he could answer, a red alert flashed across one of the screens. Breach detected. Second perimeter. Emily's breath stopped. They're closer, she said. Grayson nodded once. Yes. The truth about the contract. Emily turned toward him. Grayson, I need to understand something. He didn't respond immediately. She stepped closer. This contract you gave me, the marriage proposal. A pause. It wasn't just protection, was it? Grayson looked at her for a long moment. Then said, no. Emily's stomach dropped. Then what was it? Grayson turned slightly toward the monitors. It was containment. Silence. Emily blinked. Containment of what? Grayson's voice lowered. Of you being seen with me. That confused her. I don't understand. He finally turned fully toward her. Anyone associated with me becomes a target, he said. Friend. Employee. Witness. Family. A pause. And now, you. Emily shook her head. This is insane. Grayson didn't argue. It is my reality. The past returns fully. A loud alarm suddenly echoed through the underground system. This time stronger. More urgent. Red lights flashed across the control room. Grayson moved immediately to the main console. They bypassed the Northridge sensors, one of the automated systems reported. Emily stepped back. How many are there now? She asked. Grayson's eyes scanned the data. 8 confirmed. Possibly 12 total. Emily's voice dropped. Why are they so determined? Grayson hesitated. Then said, because they believe the final file is here. Emily frowned. The file from the archive? He nodded. Yes. And is it? A pause. Grayson didn't answer immediately. That silence was enough. Emily looked at him carefully. So it is here. Grayson finally said. It was moved here after Lila's death. Emily's heart tightened. So your sister, she hid it. Grayson nodded slowly. And never told anyone. Emily becomes the key. Emily stepped back slightly. Why are you telling me all of this now? She asked. Grayson looked at her directly. Because you are already inside it. That doesn't mean I need every detail. It does now, he said firmly. Another alarm sounded. This time closer. Grayson turned toward the screen. They've reached the lower external tunnel. Emily's voice shook slightly. So they're almost here. Grayson nodded. Yes. She swallowed. What happens if they get in? Grayson didn't answer immediately. Then he said, they will not leave without what they came for. And what is that? She asked. Grayson turned toward her slowly. The truth. A pause. And anyone who has seen it. The final option. Grayson walked to a reinforced locker in the corner of the room. He opened it. Inside was a sealed black case. Emily stared at it. What is that? She asked. Grayson lifted it carefully. The last copy, he said. Emily stepped closer. The final file. He nodded. Yes. Her voice dropped. So this is what they're really after. Grayson looked at her. Yes. A long silence filled the room. Then Emily asked something quieter. If I leave now, will they still come after me? Grayson didn't hesitate. Yes. Emily closed her eyes briefly. So there is no escape. Grayson corrected her softly. There is one. She looked at him. What? He held up the black case slightly. If this disappears, their reason to chase you disappears. Emily frowned. You're saying, destroy it? Grayson shook his head. No. A pause. Deliver it. Emily froze. To who? Grayson's eyes darkened slightly. To someone who can end this. Cliffhanger ending. A violent impact echoed above them. The underground ceiling trembled slightly. Dust fell from above. Emily stepped back in fear. They're inside the estate, she whispered. Grayson secured the black case. Yes. Another impact. Closer. Emergency lights flickered violently. Grayson turned to Emily. Now you choose, he said. Her voice shook. Choose what? He looked at her directly. Stay here and become part of the fallout. A pause. Or leave with me and carry the truth outside these mountains. A final explosion echoed somewhere above them. The control room lights turned red. And Grayson Blackwood said the words that changed everything. Because from this moment, the contract is no longer about marriage. A beat. It is about survival. The tunnel door behind them began to open automatically. And footsteps echoed from the darkness outside. Approaching. Fast. The tunnel of no return. The underground door slid open with a grinding mechanical sound. Cold air rushed in. And with it, footsteps. Not random. Not confused. Organized. Grayson Blackwood stepped forward instantly, positioning himself between Emily Carter and the tunnel entrance. Stay behind me, he said calmly. Emily's voice trembled. They're already here, aren't they? Grayson didn't answer right away. Then, yes. First contact. A shadow appeared at the far end of the tunnel. Then another. Flashlights cut through the darkness in sharp beams. Voices followed. Clear the corridor. Target confirmed in underground access route. Emily's breath tightened. They sound like soldiers, she whispered. Grayson's eyes stayed fixed forward. They are not soldiers, he said. A pause. Worse. Emily frowned. Worse than soldiers. Grayson didn't explain. Instead, he moved slightly to the side, protecting her without breaking eye contact with the approaching figures. The offer from the dark. A voice echoed through the tunnel. Grayson Blackwood. Calm. Controlled. Familiar. Grayson's expression changed slightly. He recognized it. Emily noticed. Who is that? She asked quietly. Grayson didn't answer immediately. Then he said one word. Varric. The name carried weight. Not fear. History. The voice spoke again. We don't want blood tonight. Just the case. Grayson replied instantly. You came armed for negotiation. A short pause. Then a faint chuckle echoed from the darkness. Old habits. Emily's stomach tightened. They're talking like they know you, she whispered. Grayson didn't take his eyes off the tunnel. They do. The truth about Varric. Footsteps stopped just outside the light range. A figure stepped forward slowly. Now visible. Tall. Tactical gear. Calm posture. No panic. Just control. He looked at Grayson like an equal. Not a subordinate, not an enemy. Still hiding in mountains, Varric said. Grayson's voice stayed flat. You're trespassing. Varric tilted his head slightly. So are you, technically. Emily's eyes widened. You know him, she whispered. Grayson answered without looking at her. Yes. Varric's gaze shifted briefly toward Emily. So, that's her. Emily felt exposed instantly. Don't look at her, Grayson said coldly. Varric raised a hand slightly. Relax. She's not the target. Grayson's eyes narrowed. That depends on what she knows. A silence followed. Heavy. Measuring. The real demand. Varric stepped forward one more pace. We want the final file, he said. Grayson replied immediately. No. Varric sighed slightly. You always were stubborn. Grayson's voice sharpened. And you always were involved in things you shouldn't touch. Emily watched both of them carefully. This isn't random, she whispered. Grayson finally glanced at her briefly. No, he confirmed. This was planned years ago. That hit her harder than anything else. Emily becomes the center. Varric's gaze shifted back to Emily. She doesn't understand her role yet, he said. Emily stepped back slightly. What role? She demanded. Grayson moved half a step closer to her. Don't answer him, he said quietly. But Emily was already shaken. My role in what exactly? She asked. Varric smiled faintly. The reason Grayson survived the last purge. Emily froze. What? Grayson's jaw tightened. Stop talking, he said sharply. But Varric continued. She's not just protection, he said. She's leverage. Emily turned to Grayson instantly. Is that true? A long silence. Grayson didn't deny it. That silence confirmed everything. Emily's voice broke slightly. So I'm not your protection. Grayson finally looked at her. You are both, he said. That didn't comfort her. It made it worse. The break in reality. Suddenly, a loud mechanical sound echoed through the tunnel. Behind Varric, more figures appeared. Then more. Emily counted at least 6. Maybe more behind them. Varric sighed. Grayson, this doesn't end well if you keep delaying. Grayson stepped forward slightly. You think I came here unprepared? Varric smiled. I think you always prepare, but never for consequences. Grayson's hand moved slightly toward his side. But he didn't attack. Not yet. Emily noticed. You're outnumbered, she whispered. Grayson didn't look at her. I am aware. That was all he said. The decision point. Varric raised his weapon slightly, not fully aiming yet. Last chance, he said. Hand over the case. Grayson replied instantly. No. A pause. Then Varric looked at Emily again. Then she decides. Emily's breath stopped. What? Varric gestured slightly. The contract. The marriage arrangement. Whatever you want to call it. Emily stared at him. This is about that. Varric nodded. It always was. Grayson stepped forward instantly. Don't involve her. But Varric ignored him. If she agrees to come with us, he said, this ends peacefully. Emily's mind spun. Come with you, she repeated. Grayson's voice sharpened. No. But Varric continued. If she refuses, then we take everything. Silence. Emily looked at Grayson. For the first time, she saw something in him she hadn't seen before. Not control. Not calculation. Pressure. Real pressure. Cliffhanger ending. Emily's voice came out softly. What happens if I choose wrong? Grayson looked at her directly. There is no wrong choice, he said. A pause. Only consequences. Varric raised his weapon fully now. So decide, he said. The tunnel lights flickered violently. Grayson stepped slightly in front of Emily again. And quietly said, if you stay, you may never leave. A beat. If you go, you may never survive. Emily's breath shook. Footsteps surrounded them from all sides now. No exit visible. No safety left. Only one decision remained. And in that moment, Emily Carter realized the marriage contract was never about love. It was about choosing which war she wanted to survive. The morning sun spilled over the mountains like melted gold, lighting up the quiet valley that had once felt empty, but now felt like home. Emily stood at the edge of the wooden porch of the mountain cabin, her fingers wrapped tightly around a simple silver locket. Her heart wasn't racing anymore like it used to in fear. Now it raced in something far more dangerous. Hope. Behind her, the door creaked open. Daniel Hayes stepped out. The same man the world called a wealthy mountain hermit. The man who once avoided people, avoided emotions, avoided anything that could make him feel again. But that was before Emily. He stopped a few feet away, hands in his jacket pockets, eyes locked on her like she was the only thing in the world that mattered. Did you sleep at all? He asked quietly. A little, she replied. Then she smiled softly. For the first time in years, I didn't feel afraid of tomorrow. That hit him harder than any silence ever could. Because Daniel Hayes was a man who had everything money could buy, except peace. And somehow, this struggling schoolteacher with torn shoes and tired eyes had given him something his billions never could. A reason to stay human. A silence passed between them. Not awkward, not empty, but full, like the moment before a storm decides whether to destroy everything, or heal the land. Then Emily spoke. I got the letter from the school board. Daniel's expression changed instantly. And they're offering me the position again. Full time. In the city. There it was. The crossroads. The moment everything could change. Emily looked down at the locket, her voice trembling just slightly. It's everything I worked for, everything I struggled for. Daniel nodded slowly. He understood more than she knew. You should take it. She looked up sharply. Just like that, a faint, bittersweet smile crossed his face. I'm not going to be the reason you give up your life. That silence again. He turned slightly away, as if giving her space to breathe. But inside, something in him cracked quietly. Not loudly, not dramatically, just enough to hurt. Because for the first time in years, he had something to lose. Emily stepped closer. I didn't say I wanted to leave. Daniel turned back to her. Her eyes were glassy now, but steady. Strong. I said I got an offer. I didn't say I accepted it. His breath caught. She continued, voice soft but certain. This place, this mountain, it gave me something too. Not just shelter. Not just safety. She paused. It gave me a reason to stop surviving, and start living again. Daniel's voice dropped. Emily. But she shook her head slightly, stopping him. I came here broken. I thought I was just passing through your life. A tear slipped down her cheek, but she didn't wipe it away. Turns out, I walked into the only place I ever felt like I belonged. The wind moved gently through the trees, carrying silence between them. Then Daniel did something he never did. He stepped forward, close enough that she could feel his warmth. Close enough that the world outside the mountain disappeared completely. I've spent years building walls, he said quietly. Money, distance, silence, anything to make sure I never needed anyone. His eyes softened. Then you walked in like you belonged there. Emily let out a shaky breath. I didn't mean to. I know, he whispered. That's what scares me. Because love had never been part of his plan. But it was now. He reached into his coat pocket. Emily froze slightly. Slowly, he pulled out a small black box. Not flashy. Not extravagant. Nothing like the world expected from a wealthy man. Just simple. Honest. Real. Her hand instinctively went to her mouth. Daniel. He didn't open it yet. Instead, He looked at her like she was the only truth he had ever believed in. I don't want to own your future, he said. I don't want to take you away from anything you're meant to be. A pause. I just want to ask you something. The world seemed to stop breathing. He opened the box. Inside was a simple ring. Not oversized. Not loud. Just a single stone that caught the morning light like a promise. Emily Carter. His voice steadied, even though his heart clearly didn't. Will you stay with me? Not a command. Not a demand. A choice. Her eyes filled instantly. For a moment, she couldn't speak. All the pain, all the struggle, all the nights she thought she wouldn't survive, it all led to this impossible moment on a mountain where silence used to rule everything. I don't have anything to give you, she whispered. Daniel shook his head. You already gave me everything. A tear slipped down her face as she laughed softly through it. That's not fair, she said. I know, he replied gently. But it's honest. She looked at the ring again. Then at him. The man who once had everything, and still felt empty. And her. A woman who had nothing, and somehow found everything in him. Finally, she nodded. Once. Slowly. Yes, she whispered. A breath broke out of him like he had been holding it for years. Say it again, he asked quietly. Her smile trembled, but this time it was real. Alive. Yes, Daniel. I'll stay. He didn't rush. He didn't speak. He just slipped the ring onto her finger like it belonged there long before either of them understood why. And when he finally pulled her into his arms, it wasn't dramatic. It was home. Months later, the mountain cabin no longer felt empty in winter. There were books on the table. Children's drawings pinned near the fireplace. A chalkboard by the window where Emily taught local kids who once had no school worth going to. And Daniel, the billionaire who once avoided the world, now built bridges into it. Not with money, but with purpose. One evening, as snow began to fall softly outside, Emily stood beside him on the porch again. Same place. Different life. Do you ever think about how it started? She asked. Daniel smiled faintly. Every day. She leaned her head lightly on his shoulder. I was just trying to survive, she said. He looked at her. And I was just trying not to feel anything. A pause. Funny how that turned into this, he said. Emily smiled. Maybe it wasn't luck. Then what was it? She looked out at the mountains. Maybe it was always meant to be. And for once, Daniel Hayes didn't argue with fate. Because some stories aren't about wealth. Or struggle. Or even survival. Some stories are about two broken paths. Finding one road home. Please friends spot my channel. Like, share, comment. Subscribe for more stories. Thanks for watching.